Everyone, hope you're doing well. West Ham United has been linked to Santiago Giménez, and we're here to get the thoughts of Steve from Babbling Irons because I know very little about him, but I've seen this man wanted him in the summer. So, Steve, what can you tell us about the striker?
Well, Gimenez is on fire at the moment. You know, he's got 18 goals in the league alone. He's got 4 assists in the Eredivisie, and he's got 2 goals and 1 assist in Europe, 4 games. So he is a striker who is red hot. One of the things that is important for Moyes is going to be the fact that he is 6 foot. He is quite an athletic man. He's quite strong. He's lean, but he's a left-footed forward who is comfortable finishing in a variety of ways, whether it's with his head, whether it's either footed, or whether it's just getting himself on the end of a ball into the box. I think this is the sort of player that we have really missed out on since we lost someone like Arne, and I think it's a fantastic fit for the side.
Yeah, I've already seen bits of him, Steve, and from what I can recall is he's quite a physical striker. I think the game I seen him play, I think he scored with his head as well. I mean, it was a decent enough cross, but he was quite a physical. It was like a tussle he had with the centre back, if you like, a physical shirt pull thing, and he won the battle and scored as well. So I've seen limited highlights of him. I can't claim to have watched many Feyenoord games as well, but he's certainly a player that's got a big reputation in football at the minute, and he's been linked to the likes of Arsenal and Man United as well. Now, the price tag that's been put on him via the transfer rumour is 30 million. But I've already seen some concerns from yourself regarding that.
Yeah, I think that's a very well, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a generous number, I think, in terms of West Ham's side. I think if we're looking at him, it's probably going to cost 40 million unless we're putting in some sort of clause where there's a big sell-on percentage. I can't see them selling for much less. The big edge they have on us is that sort of they've just signed him down to quite a long-term contract, so they don't need to sell. They're an extremely exciting side at the moment with players like Stengs, Timber, and even Mintel on loan. They have got some very valuable assets in their squad, and they might be willing to sell one, but the ball's in their court. They won't need to sell. So I think £40 million is probably the sort of more realistic figure. And when you regard the fact that they have got European football as well, they're doing very well in the Eredivisie. Is he going to want to leave right now? I think the only way that happens is if we give him good wages, if the offer is high enough for Feyenoord, and he will want to start games. So as long as Moyes is willing to say, look, you're going to be the main man, you're going to have Kudus and Bowen playing off you like you would at Feyenoord with Stengs. You've got those pacey runners around you to link up with. I think that's going to be the draw, as well as his Mexican agent connection. So I think Agent Alvarez could have a job on his hand.
I was going to ask you then, is it ticking all the boxes? So in terms of suiting David Moyes, it's ticking that box for you. In terms of his age profile, his physicality, his likelihood to fit into the Premier League, even 40 million, it's expensive. But a club like West Ham, you'd imagine, could afford to pay that for a striker, which is, I would argue, a reasonable fee for the first choice striker in the Premier League. I don't think 40 million is anything too untoward or offensive. We paid 35 for Scamacca as well. So I don't think it's anything like that in good goal scoring form. So I was going to say, what's the thing preventing this from happening?
I think it will just be a case of, does he want to hold out for maybe a bigger top club? Is there someone out there who could potentially attract him with Champions League football? One of the things that I saw was a link to Napoli. Now, Napoli are really underperforming in Serie A, but if they were to sell someone like Osimhen in the summer, then they have the funds to go out and get someone like Gimenez. So I think that would be the only thing holding up the transfer. Does he want to go to someone who is playing Champions League football? Is he going to want to come to West Ham as opposed to even Real Madrid links I saw. So it's that sort of level of that he has been linked with. I think with the European football, with the players that we have, we can attract him. It's not like we can't pay the wages. I think the deal will be quite dependent on selling players to get it done and fit in with the financial fair play laws that we keep hearing about. But I mentioned we missed out on quite a few players in the summer who kind of fit a similar profile to what Gimenez does. Players like Boniface and Gyökeres, who's tearing up at Sporting Lisbon, and who, Boniface is tearing it up in the Bundesliga. I think this is that similar sort of player, someone who is not just able to score goals, but they are quick, they're good to link up with others, and they do the extra work that someone like Moyes, or any manager, in fact, coming in is going to see as really valuable.
Right time as well. When you're speaking there, it's hard not to think a little bit about Mohamed Kudus, not just because of the league we got Kudus from, but in the sense that Kudus, I feel, is good enough to go and play for a Champions League club, but it's almost like he's decided to take that additional step before he goes on and plays for perhaps one of the world's elite teams. And there's a little bit here with Gimenez as well, in the sense that he might have a move before a move to the likes of Real Madrid, because he's certainly young enough, and that West Ham would be an attractive club for that reason, to come play in the Premier League, pick up big wages while you're doing so. And it's almost like progressing his career, and then eventually potentially moving on to Champions League club. Obviously, the ambition would be that West Ham can achieve that, and he doesn't need to go elsewhere. But yeah, it'd be interesting. It's hard not to compare it to the Kudus thing, because I think they were at I would argue they're at similar. What Gimenez is at in terms of his stage of career, I'd just argue that Kudus was at a similar stage as well when we managed to lure him over. And like you said, we've now got Edson Alvarez, who perhaps had a word with Kudus, and now he can have a word with Gimenez as well. What about the manager, though? I know this is clutching at straws, right? Just work with me here, though, Steve. Obviously, there's a bit of uncertainty over Moyes at the minute, and the final manager, Arne Slot, is one of the ones that a lot of people would perhaps like to see at West Ham in the summer. Do you think there could be something there, or is it just 2 and 2 equals 5 here?
It's a tough one to call, because at the moment, I think, bar the odd terrible performance that we have, I think you've got to say that Moyes is earning a potential new contract. And if we were to get someone like Gimenez in, and if we were to go further in the Europa League and finish at the kind of level we are now, I think you'd be pretty hard pressed to find someone who wouldn't begrudgingly admit that he deserves another contract. So as much as I do like Arne Slot, and I think he is a really, really exciting manager, I think at the moment you've got to say that Moyes' situation, he deserves that extra time. And if you can get someone like Gimenez in the window as well, let's not forget, you could potentially be looking at us doing far, far better, and having players like Antonio coming back off the bench, then that changes things massively. We have had such a poor squad outside of the starting 11, and this would be a real game changer in that department. Do I think it's kind of set up for bringing in a new manager at the end of the season? I don't really. It would be a statement of intent, and any manager out there would want to come over and manage these kind of players when you have Paqueta and Kudus, Bowen and Gimenez. But I think the plan at the moment is just kind of stick with Moyes, see what happens. And if it gets to the summer and we decide to part ways, there's a really exciting project there that someone like Tim Steiten can go out and sell to people.
Before I quiz you about another couple of transfer rumours, just to summarise your thoughts on Santiago Giménez, out of 10, how much would you like to see it happen?
That's got to be a 10 for me, I think. It's go ahead.
And how much do you believe the rumour?
That's the sad part. I think maybe 3. I wouldn't be surprised if we were interested, but it's the same sort of thing as me saying, well, I'm quite interested in Dua Lipa. So I don't really know the kind of realism in that department. But it would be, it would be remiss of me to say that we can't sign him. You know, when someone like Brighton are looking at Samardzic and they are, you know, they were close to signing Kudus in the summer. I think we're a far more exciting project, and I think we can really attract a player of that level. So I think there's a bit of truth there. I wouldn't be surprised if we're kind of fiddling the numbers and trying to shift a few players off to make things happen and give ourselves a stronger budget. But I see there being competition for this, and maybe one of those competition elements might be the price tag. So I'm not quite sure.
Well, there you go. You've burst my bubble. Thanks for that, Steve. Much appreciated. It lasted 10 minutes. I was getting excited for you there, but thank you very much. While I've got Steve here, I'm going to pick his brains about another couple of transfer rumours. But if you want to see and hear more from Steve and the likes of Frankie as well, do check out the Babbling Irons YouTube channel. I'll put a link to their channel in the description, and their latest video will be on your end slate at the end of this one. Steven Bergwijn, what do you make of him?
I think he's going to offer a lot more than Ben Rama, and I don't mean that with any disrespect to Ben Rama. I just think we lack so much when he plays in terms of the ability to run at players, and he showed a little bit of a glimmer when he came on against Arsenal, but I think he's lacking the pace and directness and the confidence. I think maybe there's an issue there. For him to consistently just run at players and help us with that counter-attacking threat that we have. But Bergwijn completely solves that. He is quick, he's quite strong on the ball, and he is technically very strong. So look, it's not a deal that I'm going to get excited about necessarily. I think he addresses a lot of the issues we have, but I think there's probably better value for money out there. Someone like Jon Rowe, I'd probably prefer us to go out and sign from Norwich. But I do think he's a good player. So I'm not exactly going to complain over the transfer. I think he's got a lot of the assets that would thrive in our system.
And you mentioned Jon Rowe there. Tell me about him.
Well, he's been absolutely tearing up the Championship this season for Norwich, and it's a very frustrating Norwich side. I think they're definitely playing to his strengths on the counter, and they have a lot of pace going forward, but they are incredibly loose at the back at times. And I think one thing that Rowe does offer is the ability to cut inside, and I think him being right-footed, he's 5'10" and very, very quick, would offer us a ton of ability on the counter. It's a real outlet for us that we lack in Ben Rama. He's got the same sort of footwork. He does like to play and use a lot of flair, which I know can irritate some people, but he's a real player to get fans up off their feet. And he's for a 5'10" winger, he's very good in the air. I think 3 of his goals this season have come from headers. I think he even scored one for the England under 21s, but I could be wrong there. He's just a hard-working footballer who carries that pacey threat and links up well with others. He got an assist against Ipswich recently. He played a really tidy through ball after a good first touch and bit of close control. So I would be looking more towards Rowe as a winger. I think his price tag's probably going to be lower, and his wages are almost certainly going to be lower.
What about Jack Clarke then? Because out of the noise is around Jack Clarke, isn't it? There is that sort of link there with Elise and Equa and those clauses that we can maybe remove should they sell us Clarke. And he feels the one that's most likely at the moment. What do you make of him?
I think he's a fantastic footballer. He offers a lot of the things to thrive in this system. As I mentioned, the pace. He's a little bit taller as well. I think he's about 6 foot, and he has got the work ethic that when that I always like when I look at players. You know, if he used to be at Spurs, which I know is a big minus for us, but he, you know, he left there. He's gone to play first team football. He struggled at Leeds, and he's really bounced back from that. And I think that's the sort of thing that you want to see as a football fan. You want someone who's going to go out and give 100%. And I think if you're judging him just off that Newcastle performance, I think you're making a massive mistake. Yeah. He's a really exciting player. He does like to cut inside. He's got a great eye for goal, and he's always looking to take on his man. So I think it's a move that, you know, if we can get it for around £16 million, which I think we probably could, with the activation or you know, dropping of those clauses, I think it's a really good deal. He's someone that we've seen success from signing in the Championship with Bowen. It's probably a very low risk deal in terms of the physical step up and even the impact he can have off the bench. But my preference would probably be for Rowe. And I know that might shock a few people because Clarke is tearing it up so much in the Championship. I just think that Rowe has that bit more pace. I think his link-up play is just as good. And he's performing in a side that is, I think, Sunderland the better side of two. And I know that's debatable, but I just think that Norwich they leak goals a lot more than Sunderland do. And Sunderland have a strong spine to their side that really does help take the pressure off Clarke. It can allow him to kind of ghost in and out of games, where I think Rowe really grabs him by the scruff of the neck, and he can be the one dragging the side forward. And that explosive pace on the counter, I think it's just that little bit more than Clarke's.
Last one then. So Rowe's your number one choice. You have to choose between Bergwijn and Clarke just to get an idea of who you prefer. Which one would you go for?
I'd probably go for Clarke. I think with the homegrown numbers at the club and the issue that's going to cause in the summer, I think really quick, easy fix. And, you know, it could have a similar impact to the Bowen signing.
Fantastic. Well, Steve, thank you very much. A pleasure, and I appreciate you giving up your time as always. Thank you.
No, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And thank you very much for listening to me waffle on.
If you guys would like to see more Steve, the link to the Babbling Irons channel is in the description below. But if you've enjoyed this video, please drop a like on it by clicking thumbs up. Subscribe to Damage Chat. Myself and Steve catch up with you at some point.